Introduction. Welcome to the online course on PeaceTech and the Women, Peace and Security Agenda. If you have been curious to know more about the impact of technology in conflict and in peace, and whether its use has gendered effects in society, you are in the right online class. In this course, we will be learning about the intersections of identities with technology, both in times of peace and conflict. We will further explore and analyze real-life situations from across the globe where the use of technology really did make a difference in fostering and sustaining peace. And lastly, about the ethicality of the creation and use of technology and its implications in society in terms of who it serves and who it is created for. Despite living in the 21st century, an era often defined by democracy, freedoms, and choice, we continue to witness wars, conflict, and widespread violations of human rights. This reality persists decades after the adoption of frameworks and laws and policies such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, the Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on Women, Peace and Security, the Beijing Declaration and Platform on Action, and many others. Currently, there are 110 armed conflicts taking place in the world, including areas of the Middle East, North Africa, Asia, Europe, and Latin America. Whereas the risk of armed conflict in the coming years, based on a 2025 EU public opinion poll in 9 EU countries, declare that they anticipate a high risk of war in the European continent in the upcoming years. After centuries of continuous attempts to preserve human life and prevent societies from human loss, after decades of declarations and conventions to prevent wars and conflict and gender-based violence, humanity continues to witness events which should have only been occurrences of the past. Consequently, discussions on peace and stabilization are as temporary as they were during the past 2 world wars. When we analyze the way wars are being fought today, we see that along with the advancements of technology and machinery, wars in contemporary times are relying on technology more than ever. Warfare has developed simultaneously with technology, and it is sometimes difficult to tell which has driven which. Both are deeply connected, and this relationship between warfare and technology dictates how wars are being experienced, organized, and fought. The use of drones and robots and the utilization of cyber attacks as weapons raises different ethical issues and also makes us reflect on the positions of power, who has the resources to build and invent, and who suffers the consequences of fighting wars with less technologically evolved means. Despite the use of technology for the purposes of war and conflict, technology can also be used to foster and maintain peace. Before, during, and after wars and conflicts, technology has served as a tool to promote equality, non-discrimination, solidarity, and safer planet in general. The use of mobile phones has changed warfare in terms of documentation of atrocities as they are happening, as well as to reach global audiences. Additionally, not only have mobile phones served as tools of documentation, but they have also become enablers of platforms to call for and also promote solidarity. In times of peace, technology has helped maintain democracies by facilitating access to information and communication with political stakeholders, which is grounded in the core principles of democracy, such as accountability and transparency. Besides enabling civic participation, cyberspaces have also allowed for the diversification of voices and recognition of marginalized people, who usually are given less space and also less resources to speak and rise up. Scientists, academics, activists, researchers, and policymakers have united to invent, advocate, and raise awareness on the usage of technology for the benefit of humankind. This movement has become more and more significant in the past 15 years, and it has also evolved to be identified as the concept of PeaceTech. PeaceTech refers to the intersection of science and technology with the aim of preventing, mitigating, or resolving violence and conflict, and also promoting peace. As such, the aim of the initiative is to promote peaceful applications of technology rather than its use for harmful practices. In this online course, we will go deeper into the concept of peace and conflict in order to understand how technology can be leveraged for the promotion of the first and elimination of the latter. Throughout the 3 modules, we will have the opportunity to analyze the technologies of peace and conflict and the ethical use of technology to prevent violation of human rights, as well as also having in mind other considerations such as the planet, cultures, history, and so on. We will also address the P in WPS, Women, Peace and Security Agenda, through the lens of technology and also gender. And lastly, we will be able to contextualize the theory in practice. In a world of rapid technological growth and expansion of the ways it can be utilized, let us all educate ourselves on how we can use these developments to better our societies rather than harm them. Let us start. Methodology. This course is structured in 3 online modules, respectively. Module 1 is about understanding peace, conflict, and gender. Module 2 talks about what is PeaceTech and how does it affect societies. And lastly, Module 3 is about ethics, action, and solidarity in the tech world. Each of the modules is comprised of a combination of theory and practice, allowing learners to understand how technology shapes our world and impacts the quality of life, but also the security and sustainability of our societies. These serve as umbrella topics for the subtopics that will be analyzed in this course, each of which starts with learning outcomes, introduction, to continue with the subtopics. The module ends with a summary and suggested reading material, videos, and exercises. Lastly, learners will have the opportunity to test their knowledge upon the completion of the course through a brief quiz. Kindly note that the assignments at the end of each module are voluntary. However, they will serve you as good exercises that you can consider as a good introduction to your practice. Audience. The course can be taken by individuals who are curious to understand the applications of technology in times of conflict and peace, and the placement of PeaceTech within the WPS agenda through a gender-sensitive feminist lens. Activists, policymakers, students, and researchers who want to expand their knowledge and skills on the ways how democracies can stand stronger and peace can be promoted are welcome to join this online space of learning facilitated by technology. Equipment needed. For this course, you only need to have a device in which to follow the modules. Reflection questions before we start. What does peace mean to you, and how do you think it can be connected to technology? Have you ever witnessed technology being used to de-escalate conflict? Have you ever thought about the power dynamics in the digital age? Who holds the power, and who is usually left behind? What are your first associations when you hear the term PeaceTech? Why do you think it's important or unimportant to analyze technology through a gender-sensitive or feminist lens? Module 1. Understanding peace, conflict, and gender. Learning outcomes. Introduction. In already existing online courses of Yahyagha Foundation, you have learned or could learn that each war, currently and in the past, has been gendered. The way war and conflicts are experienced are largely shaped by one's gender, ethnicity, race, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, education, and class. The intersection of identities positions individuals, groups, and communities at an advantage or disadvantage, which then affects their access to resources, production, health, and healing. Consequently, tensions, war, and transitional justice are gendered experiences that affect people in different ways. Individuals often face unique challenges during and after conflict. This difference inexperience is made more complicated by the lack of a shared understanding of what peace and conflict actually mean. Without a common language and clear concepts, efforts to build peace can become fragmented and leave many voices out. That's why it's important to create inclusive, gender-aware definitions so that peace can be shaped and maintained by everyone, not just a few. In order to understand the role of technology and its impact in peace, we need to first understand what peace means, what causes conflict, and how do hierarchies of power in the age of technology translate into dynamics of war and conflict. Thus, we will go through a journey of understanding these concepts in this module, in order to proceed with a specific focus on PeaceTech. Othering as a process and what it leads to. It is difficult to pinpoint exactly what fuels war and conflict or what causes tensions to escalate into violence. The roots of conflict are often complex and deeply embedded in the specific context, culture, and history of a country or people. Wars may arise from historical divisions related to religion, race, ethnicity, nationality, or contested territories. In many cases, these divisions are further intensified by political manipulation, economic inequality, colonial legacies, or struggles over resources and power. What characterizes an individual, group, or community can oftentimes be instrumentalized to turn people against one another. For example, in the context of Kosovo, the war of 1998 and 1999 came as a result of systematic ethnic oppression and division. In Northern Ireland, civic unrest, or known as the Troubles, between 1968 and 1998 was rooted in religious differences among the population, whereas the 1994 genocide in Rwanda was largely driven by ethnic and political differences. What these three cases reveal is that wars and conflicts often emerge from deeply rooted and already existing divisions, which could be economic, or they could be also political, ethnic, religious, or territorial. What we can infer is that such differences, when left undealt with, can escalate into violence. The process of fragmentation in society is then closely linked to the concept of othering, a term explored by Simone de Beauvoir in her book The Second Sex. In this book, de Beauvoir tries to illustrate how women are constructed as social categories in relation to men, and given that men hold positions of power, women are considered as the other, which leads to women's marginalization in public life. The construction of the other does not only apply to the gender categories, it also expands to race, ethnicity, sexuality, class, religion, and other markers of our identities that make us different from one another. The individual, group, or community, which is the closest to the norm or what it means to be normal, usually the majority, usually assumes positions of power and have more access to resources and define the rest in relation to them. In times of war and conflict, this process of othering becomes particularly dangerous. Groups, communities, or individuals who are the others are reduced to bodies only and stripped away of their humanity by being referred to as the other, or the enemy, or the outsider. The process of othering also produces the us versus them mentality, in which one group is repeatedly portrayed as the threat or obstacle to social, political, or economic, or religious unity or peace. As a result, it becomes easier for violence against the others to be justified, or even encouraged in the name of elimination of the threat. Constructing peace through a feminist lens. So, does conflict end when the last bullet is shot? And does the last fired weapon mean that peace follows immediately? The answer is more complex than you might think. Johan Galtung, a researcher who has dedicated his career to the study of peace, defines peace as the absence of all forms of violence, and categorizes violence in three groups, namely direct, cultural, and structural violence. In this figure, one can easily understand what these types of violences mean and how are they manifested in our society. Direct violence, which is the easiest to identify due to its visibility, refers to the harmful psychological or physical practices and actions such as murder, genocide, hate speech, torture, or war. whereas structural and cultural violence are usually less visible, and it takes through observations and also interactions to be noticed, given that they are usually well masked in society. Cultural violence is rooted in differences in elements that separate us and the others, as we discussed previously. Thus, ethnicity, race, religion, gender, history, and language usually fuel this type of violence. Structural violence is typically institutionalized, which is practiced through discriminatory approaches in politics and also the economy. Depending on the context, these types of violence intertwine to oppress, marginalize, and discriminate those who do not fit the norms. In the context of Kosovo, during the Yugoslav period, Albanians were systematically oppressed by going through both structural as well as cultural violence. The system, which worked to the Albanians' disfavor, expelled them from fully and equally taking part in public life, as well as having access to resources and opportunities. This ranged from the closure of Albanian language schools and the unjust firing of thousands of workers to the targeted killing of civilians and poisoning of children. How do hierarchies of power in the technology age translate into dynamics of conflict? To begin with, technology is disproportionately used for warfare, rather than for promoting peace. Amid growing threats to democracies and current geopolitical instability, countries are increasingly investing in security by fostering innovation and developing tools that not only provide a strategic advantage in warfare, but also serve as instruments of soft power. In past 13 years, investments in the military have increased globally, which have reached $2.24 trillion in 2023. Whereas investments in building and keeping peace have received less than 1% of the total amount spent in military expenditures globally. Similar to other situations where there are imbalances of power, even technological innovation, resources, and information is asymmetrically shared among those who are engaged in warfare. Countries which stand better economically and are considered to be global superpowers usually have a larger share in access to technology, whereas countries which have been traditionally colonized and marginalized in global politics fall victim or suffer larger consequences due to the inadequate and scarce resources. Drone technology has revolutionized the way wars are being fought by giving countries tactical advantage, surveillance, and reducing the amount of human loss. The autonomous warfare through drones as well as artificial intelligence has been considered a remarkable development, which did not have the same attention as significance as 3 years ago. Countries that have access to such technologies not only benefit in efficiency of military operations, but they also manage to preserve human life. Low-income countries engaged in warfare need to rely less on technologically advanced equipment and more in human-driven operations, which results in higher death tolls of military personnel, soldiers, and officers, in addition to civilian life loss. In addition to drone technology, technologically advanced countries have developed cyber and information warfare, which in the modern era of conflict are considered essential tools of exercising power. These entail the dangers of these types of warfare are multi-layered and complex since the intention reaches wide masses in very short periods of time by creating a ripple effect in discourse, behavior, relationships, as well as political landscape. Countries which lack the infrastructure and expertise in protection from these types of warfare are traditionally more vulnerable, which makes the cyberspace a battleground with asymmetry of powers and consequences. How does gender affect the way technology is experienced and utilized? Similar to other instances in times of conflict and war, even the utilization of technology has gendered nuances. Women and girls experience, are affected, and access technology differently from men and boys in many ways. Firstly, women and girls have less access to internet. From the 3 billion people across the globe who are not connected to the internet, the majority are women and girls. As a consequence, this prevents them from receiving timely information about safety, humanitarian services, or health. Simultaneously, they become less engaged in peace building as well as peacekeeping efforts in the digital spaces, for which we will talk more about later on. Given that the tech industry is predominantly male-occupied, women and girls continue to be left out of research, design, and implementation of technology, which results with male-centered and appropriated technology that does not benefit or impact all groups of society equally. Lastly, when we are talking about cyber warfare, technology is often instrumentalized against women, by which case they fall prey of social media harassment, revenge pornography, or doxing, but more on that later. Summary. In this first module, we step back to explore some fundamental questions. What do we really mean by peace and conflict? And why does gender matter in these conversations? We examined how people experience war and peace differently, not only based on gender, but also on race, ethnicity, religion, class, and other aspects of identity. We then reflected on the concept of othering and how societies can marginalize and dehumanize those seen as different, which sets the path for violence and later on even conflict. Using Galtung's framework, we unpack the different types of violence: direct, structural, and cultural. And then we applied these ideas to real-world contexts, including Kosovo. We challenged the idea that peace is simply the absence of war, and considered feminist perspectives that reveal the less visible but everyday forms of violence, which are embedded in systems and also institutions. Lastly, we also discussed how technology, whether through drones, surveillance, or online platforms, affect people differently, depending on their gender and also access. Keep these ideas and questions in mind as we go through the rest of the modules. Module assignment. Now that you have a general understanding of how modern technology is used in warfare, choose one ongoing conflict from anywhere in the world. And then analyze the role of disinformation in the conflict, and also assess its impact on the politics, economy, and society of the countries involved. Quiz 1. Module 2. What is PeaceTech and how does it affect societies? Learning outcomes. Introduction. In the previous module, we talked about the technologies of conflict and wars and the power hierarchies they create among states, nations, societies, and people. We also discussed that the percentage of technology used for keeping and maintaining peace is much smaller than the percentage of technology used for warfare. However, the use of technology for keeping and maintaining peace has had significant impact in the world. Starting from the fact that technology has served as a mediator in bringing global communities together in cyberspaces by enabling unprecedented opportunities for cultural exchange, communication, and the sharing of practices, it has also played a key role in creating safe spaces for reporting, extracting data to inform decision-making, and encouraging civic engagement by involving all segments of society in public discussions. In this module, we will analyze what are technologies of peace and what are some technological solutions that improve public safety, encourage democratization, and enforce human rights. We will also explore how the intersection of these previously discussed values with technology has led to the emergence of a concept known as PeaceTech. Through case studies and a gender-sensitive lens, we will also analyze how this newly emerging concept fits into the women, peace, and security agenda, and what that means for societies globally. Technologies of peace. According to Sandvik, technologies of peace are defined as mostly digital and web-based information and communication technologies used to prevent, as well as manage, armed violence and build a durable and high-quality peace. Peacekeeping missions of the United Nations have also adapted to the recent technological developments. The UN has updated and integrated intelligence policy as well as surveillance as part of its tools in peacekeeping. From 2014, the UN has created an expert panel on technology and innovation in peacekeeping, which does not only contribute to the UN peacekeeper safety, but it also enhances the quality of life of residents of the country where the peacekeepers are working in. How do peacekeepers usually do this? Well, firstly, they make sure to exchange information and access information flows between both sides of parties involved in conflict. Peace building used to depend on in-person and physically present dialogue, but new technologies now help bridge that gap by sharing information widely and enabling meetings without physical presence between two conflicting parties. Secondly, they make sure to involve local stakeholders, as well as citizens, in the conflict solving. Instead of organizing only discussions with political leaders and those who are at the top of the political and societal hierarchy, they encourage dialogue through online platforms, which contribute to a longer-lasting peace by engaging local stakeholders that know the situation from the field. And lastly, peacekeepers have the opportunity of measuring the public pulse on social, economic, and political issues through platforms such as Google or Facebook, which then allows data gathering, which enables them to analyze the needs as well as the attitudes of different groups in society. In the first module, we mentioned the different forms of violence that occur in societies globally. Presently, technology is being used to facilitate peace and eradicate the three forms of violence. Operational prevention. This form of prevention falls into the category of preventative diplomacy, in which case technology is used to identify and respond to early signs of conflict that can easily escalate into violence. Given the technological innovations, early warning and response techniques and tools have developed too, and now are categorized through 4 generations, starting from the 1990s to now, are shown in this table. From the examples shown in this table, we can understand that in less than half a century, we have managed to create 4 generations of technology to prevent escalations. Exponential growth, right? An example of technological innovation that has been helping immensely communities to prevent escalation and conflict prevention is the Ushahidi platform. Ushahidi is a non-profit company equipped with easy-to-use tools that helps communities turn information into action by collecting and mapping reports from people. Users can send information through SMS, email, social media, or online forms, often in real time. It is especially useful during emergencies, elections, natural disasters, or conflicts, as it shows what's happening on the map and helps people understand problems and respond more quickly. Countering cultural violence. Hate speech, rooted in stereotypes, traditional norms, leads to a form of violence which is less detectable, as we discussed, but is constant and has long-term effects in the emotional as well as psychological scarring of those being hated on verbally. Fortunately, artificial intelligence and other AI tools are being utilized to identify and check false information. One of those examples is Perspective API, which is a tool that can be utilized by different platforms to assess hate speech, misogyny, sexism, profanity, attacks on identities, and discourse toxicity. In this figure, you can have a glimpse of the complexity of the platform and the web of different perspectives in which the tool operates in. The creation of this tool is one example of technology being used for peace purposes. In Kosovo, CSOs, INGOs, media, and Kosovo institutions have come together to counter hate speech and the spread of hate through gender, nationalist, religious, and security disinformation. In 2023, Kosovo faced major political and security tensions, creating fertile ground for misinformation and disinformation to spread. Out of 4,859 monitored media items, nearly 1,000 contained false or misleading content, which worsened ethnic tensions and harmed social unity. A growing concern in the media space was the use of deepfakes, fake audio and video, content created with AI, used to mislead the public about political figures, especially women. This trend has made it harder for fact-checkers to verify information. According to the NDI report on information disorders in Kosovo, women in politics were frequently targeted with sexist and violent online attacks, questioning their competence and integrity. These threats and misogynistic messages contribute to deterring women from engaging in public life. Such acts do not contribute to a peaceful society. Does Kosovo have fact-checking platforms? Yes, it does. These platforms are easily accessible, they are user-friendly, and actively work to combat misinformation. You can find some of the most reliable ones listed here. Number 1 is Cryptometry, and number 2 is Hybrid.info. Structural violence. Among the various forms through which structural violence is exercised, restricted access to resources is one of the defining characteristics of this type of violence. Globally, marginalized groups and communities have less access to education, healthcare, water, food, public services, and electricity. One example of a country which is being revolutionized by the solar energy is Kenya. The World Bank is assisting the country to access water through solar energy. Solar-powered water pumps and solar lamps have helped thousands of people living in remote villages to have drinking water and lighting. Having these two basic human rights met, the communities are now less vulnerable to hardships, activities that threaten their life, and practices that affect the environment negatively. In the Sahel, conflicts between farmers and pastoralists over land and water are rising due to climate change and resource scarcity. To address this, Earth observation data and the transhumance tracking tool are being used to map seasonal migration routes and identify safe grazing paths. These tools help pinpoint conflict-prone areas, especially along farming zones, and support better planning and conflict prevention. By combining satellite data with real-time tracking, this technology offers a new way to reduce tensions and promote peaceful coexistence, turning data into a powerful tool for peace building. In order to prevent structural violence in Kosovo, in terms of equal access to employment, the government has created the Superpuna, which is a platform designed to ease the access of young people and women, including women, in the labor market. Superpuna aims to ensure a job placement for every young person aged 18 to 29 through government-supported mediation between job seekers and employers. Once a successful match is made, the government subsidizes the worker's monthly salary with €350 for a period of 6 months. What is PeaceTech? PeaceTech can be seen as a diverse and interdisciplinary approach that uses technology to prevent conflict and violence while promoting and sustaining peace. Around the world, electronic tools, online platforms, apps, systems, devices, and data are actively used to support peace-building efforts. Simply put, everything we've covered in this module about technologies for peace falls under the umbrella of PeaceTech. Some organizations, partnerships, platforms that leverage technology within the scope of peace are listed here in this table. They are in addition to the examples that were provided in this module. PeaceTech initiatives. PeaceTech Alliance. Tech to Peace. Global PeaceTech Hub. Austrian Center for Peace. How does PeaceTech link to the WPS agenda? Women, Peace and Security Agenda, as also explained in another online course of the Yahyagha Foundation, refers to the United Nations Resolution 1325, which has been established as a global policy framework that focuses on the inclusion of women and girls in peace processes and the elimination of conflict. Its main thematic focus are also on the prevention of gender-based, sexual, and domestic violence, protection of human rights in conflict, and ensuring gender-responsive recovery, reintegration, rehabilitation, and re-socialization upon the conclusion of the conflict. There are many fronts in which PeaceTech is advancing the WPS agenda, including but not limiting to enhancing women's participation, preventing GBV and sexual violence in conflict, providing opportunities for communication and solidarity, contributing to the collective memory of women's lived experiences, easing access to resources, enhancing economic and social inclusion, diversifying voices and experiences, ensuring implementation of policies and laws, mapping hate speech, misogyny, sexism, violation of human rights, and encouraging measures against such behavior. Summary. In this module, we explored the concept of PeaceTech, how technology is used not only in war, but also as a powerful tool for peace. From early warning systems and real-time reporting platforms like Ushahidi, to AI tools detecting hate speech and platforms, improving access to jobs and resources, technology is shaping more inclusive and peaceful societies. We also saw how PeaceTech supports the WPS agenda by increasing women's participation, preventing violence, and strengthening communication and solidarity networks. Through real-life examples from Kosovo to Kenya, we saw how technology can drive systematic change and promote long-term peace. So, dear learners, we need to see technology not as a neutral universal tool, but as a life-changing instrument which, if used good intentionally and inclusively, it can transform societies and eradicate conflict. Module assignment. Watch the video Global Peace Tech, unlock better angles of our tech, and reflect on the challenges of intersecting technology with peace in the context of Kosovo. Module 3. Ethics, Actions, and the Solidarity in the Tech World. Learning Outcomes. Introduction. The rapid pace of technological innovation has reduced the ability of many stakeholders to keep up, even as they depend on it for its own benefits. As technology becomes increasingly rooted in every aspect of our lives, its impact grows exponentially, often faster than our system and values can adapt. As we increasingly rely on technology to carry out daily tasks and deem it essential to our economies, politics, health, and education, critical questions arise. Who are they really made for? And how do power hierarchies influence who benefits and who is left out? These questions invite us to reflect on the ethical dimensions of how technology is created and used. From algorithmic data processing to the mapping of our preferences and behaviors, to automation and surveillance, technology increasingly surpasses privacy boundaries. While it opens up a wide range of opportunities, it also raises serious concerns. especially when transparency and accountability are not considered as core values. Furthermore, although we would like to believe that technology is neutral and unbiased, the fact that it is human-made implies that there are certain biases and prejudices based on which it was created in the first place. Knowledge can never be entirely objective, no matter how hard researchers and scientists try to set aside their biases. The inventions reflect the values, assumptions, needs, and aspirations of those who created them in the first place. As such, we need to strengthen our commitment to do the do not harm approach and aim to reflect all voices and experiences in the creation of technology. In this module, we will further explore the ethicality of technology, and we will analyze some examples of ethical use of technology in the context of Kosovo, while highlighting cases where solidarity, collective memory, and human rights were promoted. Lastly, we will reflect on our roles in the tech ecosystem and invite peace as a value in our tech endeavors. Ethical use of technology. According to the Marymount University, ethics in information technology refers to the moral principles that guide the behavior of people who interact with technology, as well as the organizations that develop and implement technology. Hence, professionals and individuals who use and engage with technology must rely on these ethical frameworks in order to make sure that they are not causing more harm than they're causing benefits to the wider society. Values and technology. On this note, the Marymount University has attached some values to the concept of the ethical use of technology, which can be found in this table. These values, which are dedicated to the information technology sector, a sector which is crucial to democracies, civic engagement, and the promotion of human rights, can be applied to other sectors where technology is instrumentalized for human benefits, including politics, healthcare, economy, or education. Addressing the ethics component with the tech sector is complex and multi-layered, and this has become an even more contemporary issue with the development and the exponential growth of artificial intelligence. Human biases and technology. It is unorthodox to think that research and innovation are biased, and they reflect the views, lived experiences, and the needs of only a handful of people, groups, or individuals. Technology is made by humans for humans, and this implies that its creators, no matter how hard they try to strip themselves from all biases and personal viewpoints, can never be fully objective. Systematic bias in technology refers to the unjust and unequal practices, laws, structures, and results that continuously marginalize traditionally underrepresented groups and communities when it comes to technology. According to McKinsey & Company, in 2023, in the United States of America, only 3% of individuals in leadership positions in technology sector were Black, whereas a Zipia study from 2022 revealed that women represent only 28% of tech workers in the United States. Given that the US is a hub of technological revolution, having a low representation rate of all groups of society is alarming because it reveals that the creation process is not inclusive and does not represent the diverse voices, needs, and viewpoints of everyone who use technology. According to Robert F. Smith, the biases take three forms. Implications of unethical use of technology. Well, first and foremost, smartphones are practically glued to our hands in modern times. We use them as devices for social interaction, information, leisure, and education. As such, our mindsets and behavior are evolving together with the technology we are using every day. Each interaction we have on social media or other apps and devices, all of them leave an imprint on our preferences, ideological views, relations to others, and they reflect the way we think, behave, and interact with others. As such, algorithms which serve to fit our preferences may provide recommendations and suggestions to content that we keep going back to, gradually creating bubbles that isolate us from diverse perspectives. Technology is becoming ever more invasive, with facial recognition and tracking services that offer convenience but at the same time compromise privacy and civil liberties, if it is misused. Without regulations and oversight, these tools can be exploited by politicians, corporations, or individuals with intentions that do not serve the greater good. Ethics is also critical in addressing the power imbalances that technology can further deepen. Marginalized communities often bear the brunt of poorly designed systems through biased algorithms, digital exclusion, or lack of representation in tech development. If technology is to be a force for good, creators and decision makers must actively work to identify and mitigate such harms. Technology has unfortunately often been utilized to create cyberspaces where women have been objectified, sexualized, and violated. Technology has enabled the creation of the manosphere, a compilation of applications, websites, and online forums which promote toxic and hegemonic masculinity by calling and advocating for the oppression of women. Such male-dominated spaces that display unhealthy ways of performing masculinity shape the mindsets of the young boys and further deepen the divides between the sexes by encouraging violence, hate, and stigmatization. Trust in the foundation of which technology should be built on. When users feel that their data is misused or that systems work against them rather than for them, trust is diminished. This not only undermines the social legitimacy of technology, but also risks stalling innovation altogether. Ethical in technology creation and use is not optional. It is essential for building technologies that truly serve society. Solidarity and technology. Solidarity, both as a concept and practice, arises from a deep-rooted need for connection and shared humanity. As social beings, we depend on one another to experience belonging, support, and safety in the world. Often, solidarity arises out of unlikely relationships, shared struggles, or even through technology, which increasingly serves as a powerful tool for fostering collective empathy and action. There are many examples of technology fostering and facilitating solidarity across the world, in which case people who would otherwise never meet have the chance to interact with people from across the globe. Technology, particularly social media, has transformed global solidarity by giving a platform to voices that were once ignored or silenced. It empowers marginalized individuals and communities to share their lived experiences, raise awareness, and connect with a broader network of individuals. This digital visibility helps mobilize support across borders, turning local struggles into global movements and fostering a more inclusive push for social justice. Here, you can find listed some of the social media movements and platforms that have been purely solidary in essence. Black Lives Matter, Me Too, Solidarity with Sana, PeaceTech and Kosovo. Although Kosovo is not one of the countries considered to be a hub of technological innovation, of course due to lack of access and resources compared to other superpowers, the country has used technology to bring together people and make people's life easier. Building on this momentum, young people and grassroots organizations in Kosovo have increasingly turned to technology as a platform for activism, education, and social change. From launching digital campaigns that advocate human rights to creating online spaces for civic engagement, technology has become a powerful tool for amplifying underrepresented voices and easing access to services, knowledge, and network. Network Pristina, United for Animals, Shtëpit Shkolla, Oral History Kosova, Rën Shpe, e-Kosova, Ndreqe, redflagsdplus.org, zotimet.forumi.online. Your role in the tech ecosystem. We may not have the biggest tech companies, nor the greatest access to technological innovation. However, we have proven to have a drive and passion to use technology for the benefit of our societies. From building websites that help people stay informed, to using social media to raise awareness or push for change, we show how tech can bring people together. Our role is to make sure technology works for everyone, not just a few, and to make use of it to solve real problems in Kosovo. What can you do to leave a clean imprint in the tech world while also being ethical? Avoid spreading or engaging with harmful content, such as disinformation, deepfakes, hate speech, or posts that marginalize communities or objectify others, especially women. Report such content when you see it, and don't fall for clickbait that thrives on shock or harm. Use your online presence to promote inclusion, gender equality, human rights, and healthy conversations. Encourage positive masculinity, challenge harmful stereotypes, and stand against cyberbullying and online harassment. Raise awareness about pressing social issues, such as climate change, gender-based violence, racism, or war, by sharing reliable information, amplifying marginalized voices, and engaging in meaningful conversations. Small actions online can lead to real change offline. Support and contribute to digital platforms that promote peace, education, mental health, and justice. Whether you're writing blog posts, creating videos, or just spreading the word, sharing knowledge can empower others. But be mindful of the information you share that concerns other people or may have the potential to invade their privacy. Receive consent before sharing anything that has to do with personal information, stories, or experiences of other people. If you work in the tech sector, work with care, compassion, and have an inclusivity lens while creating. Remember that technology created without representing everyone in society is flawed. You can be an agent of the change we need to witness in the tech world. Technology is evolving each day, and with it, rules and regulations are constantly updated. Be mindful of the changes and implement them accordingly in your everyday life. Summary. We conclude this module with the premise that technology is not neutral and reflects the values, assumptions, and power dynamics of its creators. While it holds immense potential, without ethical reflection and inclusive design, it can deepen inequalities. By centering solidarity, transparency, and a do-not-harm approach, we can ensure technology supports human dignity, peace, and justice for all. Thus, it is up to you to advocate for and contribute to increasing the percentage of technology which is used for peacekeeping and peace-fostering goals. Module assignment. Analyze the platform of Oral History Kosovo and take note of the ways in which the platform contributes to peace. Can you link the efforts of this platform to the general WPS agenda? Dear learners, thank you for staying with us for the entire duration of this online course. We are grateful to have professionals, individuals, and activists like yourself who are keen on advocating the peace agenda through the scope of technology. Now that you have basic information on some of the most pressing issues when it comes to technology, human rights, and peace, we hope that you will further expand your knowledge and have a greater sensitive lens in your daily use of technology and platforms facilitated by technology. My name is Alba, and it was a pleasure to be your instructor for this course.